Hello everyone, my name is Tamimo Mary, and this is my 2004 SL55 AMG. Yes, I made sure it's a real AMG. Trust me, I double checked, but today I will be showing you how I was able to purchase this car for $8,500 and what was wrong with the car. So stay tuned. First things first, how did we get here? Quick disclaimer. I have no footage recorded in this video with the intent of making a YouTube video to share for my future audience. And to begin with, I want to explain to you how I got here. So we're going to start off way back in 2015 where I bought my first SL500 with a Brabus body kit. Sight unseen on Copart with rear damage. Now, I don't know what damage it had at the time of the purchase. When we got it, we saw that the rear well was dented in from, I guess, an accident. No idea how it happened, but nothing we couldn't fix, so we ended up hammering out the rear well to almost OEM. It wasn't always going to be OEM, it never was. We were never going to buy a new well, it was just going to be way too expensive. We ended up going and buying an aftermarket rear bumper styled similar to how Brabus had it, and it obviously came without any of the clips, any of the holdings, so we had to buy that from Mercedes. Once everything was installed properly, I ended up driving the car exactly the way you see it here. And I drove it like this throughout high school. And I passed my permit test with this car. I ended up moving forward and passing my driving test with this car. And then the first few modifications that I did after I passed my driver's test was I plasti dipped the rims. Quick side note, if you don't know already, don't ever plasti dip chrome rims that are chipping and falling apart because peeling it off, it's not going to come off as easily as you would expect. Because of the chrome failing on the rims, I ended up having to refill the tires multiple times. Now, this wouldn't be the last time that I would have to refill it. I've hit multiple potholes and these rims dented so easily. They were the softest rims in the world. After a couple months of driving, we started to notice that my tires were wearing much quickly. This was a result of one of the control arms being bent from the accident that salvaged this vehicle. And even though we knew that the control arm was bent, we really didn't fix it. I mean, honestly, we just put another set of cheap tires on there and drove the car. The car shook violently past 60 miles per hour. It just was not fun to drive. Eventually, I ended up buying a lip for the car, and the day I got the lip, I went home. On my way home, there was a hammer laying on the freeway. This truck drove right over it, and that hammer landed on my windshield, causing the damage you see right here. What proceeded was a attempt to get the truck responsible, have them pay for the damages, but nonetheless, it didn't work out in our favor, and he went away free, and I ended up having to go through the insurance. They covered another windshield. When they brought the windshield, they replaced it. Dad thought it would be a good idea for us to paint the rear bumper and the rear lip, the trunk lip that I had purchased on Amazon. I said, you know what? Great idea. Why don't we paint the front bumper and the grille, make it look a little bit better? And he said, you know what? No problem. Let's get it done. After those were painted, I figured, you know what? Let's just fix the driving for this car, make it drive normal. So we ended up getting the rear control arms for this car. We replaced the whole unit in the back, and the car drove great again. Ended up driving the car for a couple months, really loved it, drove well. I mean, great driving machine. Ended up selling the car to a wonderful guy. He has the car today, and this was the last pick I took of it. In conclusion, I ended up falling in love with the R230 chassis. I really love these cars. I learned so much by just owning this car. I put well over 10,000 miles on the car before I sold it, and I drove the hell out of it. I love that car so much, and the thing is, that car will last forever if it's maintained and taken care of. These engines are really bulletproof. Only thing that went wrong was a radiator blowing, but we ended up fixing that. No problem. Top it off, replaced the radiator. Car ran great, just like normal again. And the car sounded great. I'll just leave it here. Listen to those Brabus mufflers. In conclusion, I really love the car, but I really couldn't do what I wanted to do to it. Due to it being fully Brabus spec'd out, I really wanted to make my own custom touches. And that's where I felt the need to upgrade to an SL55 where I could do just that. After I sold the car, I sold it for $78.50, and I mean I didn't make a profit on it. We spent well over $14,000 on the car, not including gas, but nonetheless, we sold it for $7,800, and I ended up really wanting to get another one of these cars. I had some money saved up. I sold a couple houses, and I was really aiming to buy an SL55. I didn't have a budget at the time. I was really just aiming to get anything that came up. I went on Auto Tempest. I used Auto Tempest heavily, and I heavily recommend it if you are going to be looking for any car. After searching for a month and a half, I ended up stumbling across my car. Now, the previous owner listed it for $12,000 with a couple issues with it. One of the issues, the main issue being that the Vario roof was broken and it was stuck down. So I figured, hey, look, my dad and we really know these cars well. My dad's a master tech. He's been working on cars for well over 40 years. And so I figured, hey, this might not be a bad idea to get this car for really low and personalize the crap out of it. And I wasn't just looking for any SL55, I was really looking for one that I can get all the options with. So this one ended up coming with the heated and cooled seats, the push to start button, the Distronic Plus buttons, and all these other parking sensors and almost all the options you can get, minus the panoramic roof. Other than that, this car was fully spec'd out. When I first came and saw the car in person, I noticed that the driver's door was completely black. Now, this is very uncommon for an '04 to have. As a matter of fact, this door panel was from an '08. And the reason why it's from an '08 is because the previous owner had the car parked and someone with a truck and a tow hitch decided to reverse into the car, giving it some serious damage. He ended up getting the door replaced, but they didn't really do that good of a job. But nonetheless, the car ended up being just fine when we got it. After inspecting the car and driving it, I really wanted to get this car. I felt like that I could really do a lot with this car. I didn't know how much it would take to fix the car and make it 100% again, but that was one thing that I was really willing to take a risk at. Because of this, I knew that if I were to negotiate, I wouldn't even negotiate. I would just buy the car outright. So I ended up having mom and dad negotiate on my behalf, and dad really put in an insulting offer, in my opinion, at $8,000. But I guess it worked. We ended up submitting an offer at $8,000. The seller was like, "No, that's a little too low," and we're like, "All right, just sit on it, think on it." We drove around, waited a little bit, then he texted me. He's like, "Nah, I don't think I'm gonna do it." So I was like, "No, I really want this car." Put an offer in at 8.5. So we put an offer in at 8.5. He accepted it. We went there, picked it up, and drove it home. As soon as we got home, Dad got on his AutoLogic scanner and started scanning the car for codes and everything. Car came back clean. Only thing that was faulty was the Vario roof not working. He quickly figured out how to open the trunk like normal, so he did that. We ended up getting the roof up enough so we can pour the fluid, the hydraulic fluid, into the reservoir so it could move up and down. We ended up putting it down, letting it sit as a convertible up until the next day when we took it to his shop and we just closed the roof by using sheer manpower and whatever was in the hydraulic fluid reservoir that we had. Yes, it leaked. There was a solenoid in the roof that was completely just pouring hydraulic fluid out, but we ended up figuring it out. We closed the roof and the car was drivable again. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. Thank you so much for watching. In the next video, I will go over the first set of mods I did to the car. Till next time, thanks.